What is up, everyone? It's Ben here again. I want to go through a project with you that I absolutely have failed this channel on. I did this project from start to finish, and I did absolutely nothing for YouTube for it. Nothing. I will tell you, I didn't go as far. I went as far as I did not take a picture while I did this project from start to finish. I do have some pictures that I'll put into the video for you, and we'll go through it real quick. It's not going to be a super long process because, well, I didn't film anything. But sometimes when I'm working on stuff, that is not the time that I'm in the mood to be dragging out a bunch of equipment and recording and editing and all that. Plus, a lot of what I say when I'm doing stuff like this would probably get me kicked off of YouTube. So, maybe it's for the best. I had decided that I needed a small little errand car, a runaround car, cheap something to just jump in and run to the gym or run to the store. We're coming up on the time of year where Kathy's side business needs my truck to pull her food trailer around. And a lot of times I'll go out and my truck's hooked up to the trailer. She's run somewhere in her car. So I started looking for just a cheap basic runaround car. This was while I was away at training in Cape Coral, Florida. I was up there from September to November for some work training. I was bored, spent too much time on Marketplace and the auction sites. So way back in 2002, I lived in Virginia in Richmond, and that was when the new Mini Coopers came out. And I really liked those cars. I went and looked at them brand new. I actually still have a brochure from one I picked up at the dealer at 2002. But they were like $27,000, $28,000 back then. And that was a lot of money. I worked at CarMax. I didn't make a ton of money. And I did not want to spend that much money on one. I loved them. They were cool little cars, but they were too expensive. Back then for a while, I drove a 94 Z28 LT1 manual car that I picked up from CarMax for $1,200 because they took it in on trade, but it was branded as True Miles Unknown on the title, so they didn't want to deal with it. So I picked it up, drove it a while, and then I traded it for a 93 40th anniversary Corvette manual, LT1 manual car. Ruby red on ruby red. It was a great car. Had 30,000 miles on it at the time. I think I bought it for like 10 grand. Another car CarMax took on trade. It was a little bit old. They didn't want to fool with it. I loved that car. And for the most part, I drove 10-plus-year-old Corvettes until I had kids. And when you have kids, then you have to have bigger cars and cars with back seats and, things that are practical. So I never really needed another car, so I liked the Minis, but I never had one. So I had looked at some Corvettes, I had looked at some Minis on Marketplace, and I didn't really find what I wanted. Everything was a little bit expensive or really junky, and a teenager had them and done a bunch of stupid stuff to them. So I went on IAA, which is the Insurance Auto Auction. And this was around the time that the two hurricanes had hit the west coast of Florida, Tampa area, and there were thousands of cars that were damaged in those floods and declared total. So I started going through those cars, and I found a Mini. It's a 2010 S model, which is the turbocharged. The early ones were supercharged. I believe 07 or 08, they went to the turbo model. So I had found the car. It was weird because I know I've worked in the car business. I know how to look for weird things and what's out of place on a salvage car. And this car was extremely clean in the pictures. I'll take a moment here and I'll put some pictures from the auction listing in the video so that you can see them. So as you can see in the pictures, the car was really, really clean. And it didn't have a water line marked on it. Most of the time when a car is flooded, the insurance company puts a little line in yellow marker on the car where they best figure or guess that the water got to on the flood line. So it had no water line on it. The floors were dry in the pictures. You could see the cup holders and the shifter area. There wasn't any water sitting in there, so it couldn't have gotten water that high up in it. And another thing I noticed is in the pictures, the dash was lit up. The mileage on the tachometer was on, and you could read the mileage. So the car had power. So the buy it now on the car was, I think, $850, $900, something like that. I didn't really want to spend that on a complete dice roll, something I was buying sight unseen. So I waited for the auction. I kept it on my watch list. Now, I don't have a car dealer's license anymore. To get one in Florida is very complicated. You have to have a lot with a certain number of parking spaces for inventory and signage and insurance and all. And I don't have time for another business, honestly, or a location, especially here in the Keys. So I used a broker service. You can go on, I used SCA Auction. They don't sponsor anything. I have no affiliation with them, but I used them because they're based out of Florida. And basically you go to their website and you pay a deposit with a credit card, and you're able to bid on these vehicles just like a dealer. You have to obviously pay them for that convenience, and then you can buy whatever is for sale, even if it's dealer only, at the salvage auction. So I bid on this Mini, and I won the high bid. I bought it for $400. I thought that was a great deal. I figured at that kind of money, if it gets here and it's a total flooded out piece of crap, I could take it. It had pretty desirable wheels on it, and a lot of the little parts are pretty valuable in those cars on the secondhand market. So I said, I'll just take it apart and part it out if it's not any good. Now, something you need to be aware of is that if you watch any car YouTuber that does salvage stuff, the fees have gotten out of control at these auctions. So I paid $400 for this car, and by the time I got done paying IAA's fees, the broker's fees, sales tax, registration, document fee, all that stuff, it was about $1,400, 14 and some change is what I ended up having to pay for the car. So almost 3 times what the car cost in fees. Now, those fees don't go up exponentially if you buy a $15,000 car. They're more, but they're a lot lower percentage than they are on a $400 car, because there's minimum fees, and you know, that's just where you end up at. And even dealers pay 75% of those fees on every car they buy. So I did that, and then I had to have the car shipped to me. I was away at training. I only had my work car. I couldn't go get a car dolly and try to pull it with my work car. That wouldn't have been okay. So I spent about $600 or $700 to have it delivered to me here in the Keys. So all in all, I had about $2,000 tied up in this car by the time it got here. I got it here, and a buddy of mine looked at it for me. He pulled the back seat out and said under the seat was wet. And I said, that's kind of weird, because how do you get under the seat wet, but the cup holders weren't wet? So anyway, it sat here until I got home from my training class. And when I got home, I looked at it and I pulled the door sills up and lifted the carpet, and you could feel there was water all underneath the carpet of the car. The car would turn over. It didn't have any water in the engine. It didn't have any water really standing anywhere other than in the lowest parts of the floors. So I tried to turn it over and start it. It would turn over, but it wouldn't start. I got a power probe and I manually jumped the fuel pump, thinking that maybe the Minis in the passenger footwell have a computer called a JBE. It's basically it's a comfort access module. It also controls the fuel pump and a few things in the engine as well. So I said, if that got wet, and it was clearly wet. You could see some corrosion and stuff on it. It wasn't really bad, but you could see it. I have a couple of pictures of it here, and I'll put those in real quick for you. So the JBE was a little bit damp, and I tried to manually power on those systems, the fuel pump, the ignition, and the car didn't start. So I pulled this entire interior out of it. I took out the seats, I took out the carpet, I took console, everything out. The front seats, because of the airbags and the sensors and all that, I shampooed those with a shampoo machine. I let them dry outside on my screen patio for about a week. The carpet and the back seat, I power washed with a power washer, let them dry outside for about a week. And then I found a used JBE module on eBay. I ordered that and it came in, and usually those have to be programmed to the car. If your car has a lot of different features than the one it came out, the replacement part came out of, you have to reprogram it. But I put that in, I cleaned all of the wiring harnesses and connectors with electrical contact cleaner and a toothbrush, got everything cleaned up, plugged everything back in, pushed the button, and the car fired right up. Now, another thing to note is that this car, even the bolts that hold the seats in and the seat tracks had no rust on them whatsoever. So this car could not have had much water in it. I think it honestly, the majority of the water just got absorbed by the foam under the carpet and the foam in the back seat. It just had sucked up most of that water. I dried everything out really well before I put it back together, cleaned it with Armor All cleaner, not Armor All, Mr. Clean. I mixed it in a bucket with some soap and water, scrubbed everything, dried it, and then put it all back together. The car fired right up, ran perfect. The air conditioner's ice cold, and as I write this video, the car does not have a single warning light on the dash. I've driven it about 50 miles, I would say, since I fixed it, and it's perfectly fine. It does have a rebuilt title. I had to go through the process of getting it inspected through the state to get the rebuilt title, and now it's titled, it's registered. Like I said, I've been using it to run errands, and it's completely fine. I don't think the car had an inch of water in it if it had that much, and so far it's been great. It's German and it's 15 years old, and it was flooded in salt water, so I'm sure it's going to break at some point, and maybe I'll video actually fixing it that time when something goes wrong with it. But for now, it's been flawless. I think it's got right at like 106,000 miles. It's got a sticker in it. It's been serviced with Liqui-Moly oil, like a real good high quality oil. It's a really nice little car. Every single thing on it works. Cruise control, all the windows, power locks. I got both keys to it. So all in all, I have about $2,500 tied up in the car by the time I bought it, had it shipped, registered it, did all the repairs, the rebuilt title inspection, the wire fees, all that stuff. And the same car on the used market in similar condition, it's probably going to bring $3,500, $4,000. So I'm okay in it. If I do decide to sell it, I won't probably lose any money. I could probably get all my money back even with the salvage title, especially since I have all the history and everything of it, and I'm the one that fixed it. So we'll see. I apologize for not taking more pictures and video during this process, but I promise I'll do better on the next one. If you're still here, thanks for watching. So I wanted to just go around the Mini with you real quick, even though it's technically a finished project now. As you can see, the car is really clean. It doesn't have any real damage other than just a little bit on the hood. It's in really good shape overall. There's a little scrape and a dent right there. Carfax showed this thing had a minor front end accident at some point in its life, and I think that that's pretty well what that is. If I can find a carbon hood scoop for it, I'll probably change that out and touch everything up, and it'll look a lot better. but it doesn't look bad as it is. Car's clean. I got both keys and remotes for it. I haven't gotten all the previous owner's dog hair out of the trunk yet, but it's pretty clean overall. I would say the inside of this car is probably an 8 or 9 out of 10. There's no damage, no cracks, no tears, stains. The only thing is, if you look up, the netting for the sunroof, it's just a little saggy. It comes with age. But the car's in really good shape overall. Hopefully the third time is the charm on recording this. It kept connecting to the Bluetooth on the car and then not letting me have any audio, so I unplugged the Bluetooth. But overall, this little car is in really good shape. No warning lights on, which is unheard of for one of these cars. They're notoriously unreliable, but it's very, very clean. Everything on this car works. Every power function, air conditioning, cruise control. I added the little Bluetooth screen up there, which I really like. I have those in 2 of my vehicles that don't have a nice aftermarket unit or factory unit. The aftermarket one for this car, you can get one that goes here, but you lose your big dial speedometer, and it's still not really any bigger screen. I just need to come up with a better mounting solution for that than having it kind of stuck to the window up there. I'll work on something maybe like a ram mount or something for a cup holder and make it a little bit cleaner, but we'll see. In the meantime, I don't really have anything planned for this car. I'm going to put an S badge in the grille that I have and replace the front hood emblem and just drive it until it probably breaks, which I highly doubt will take very long knowing these cars, but I'm enjoying it so far. It's been a lot of fun, and I promise next time I'll do better and record video and footage for you. If you're still here, thanks for watching. Have a great day.